Well, I grew up in the Northwest, in Washington State, in the Tri-Cities, and I grew up in an extremely musical atmosphere. My mother was a wonderful musician and organist and pianist and light opera, and I have two older sisters, and we were raised in a very musical environment. We all studied piano and raised in a parochial school system, so there was a lot of music and singing. I never really thought about one not singing as a person. I've always sung and made music and played the trumpet and played the drums and played the piano and all that sort of thing. Music was just self-understood, but I never really thought about it as being a profession until quite a bit later in my life, and in fact studied other disciplines, literatures, political science, and have a degree in those studies, and then studied vocal repertoire and musical studies, a bachelor's of fine arts in music. And it was quite a bit later in my early 20s where I thought, well, I'm young, I can try this and see what the study of music and the profession of music are in a lot of ways two different things. And that became clearer in my early 20s. My operatic debut was in fact in Spokane, Washington. I was 19 years old, I think, and by then I was getting a lot of encouragement that I had a proper voice and could be properly trained, but still I was very much not thinking of going into operatic singing as a career. And the local production was Hansel and Gretel, and I sang the father. Shortly thereafter, I went to Los Angeles, or actually Santa Barbara, to the summer program at the Music Academy of the West, and that's where I really started to see and study opera in scenes and in sort of in full context. Most people in rural places in this country start probably their association to opera by singing arias, mainly for competitions and trying to find money to study. And it isn't until you get quite a bit farther in your studies and university before you probably are going to be involved in opera in some ways. I was actually in 2 opera choruses before I ever saw a full opera, which was rather extraordinary. The first opera I ever saw was Rigoletto in Spokane, a visiting troupe from Seattle, and then the other opera I actually got a ticket and went was Sir Geraint Evans singing Falstaff in Seattle. That was extraordinary. But the first 2 operas I was in were the chorus of Così fan tutte by Mozart and Barbiere di Sevilla of Rossini. You tend not to forget being terrified. I enjoyed it a great deal, and of course being in the chorus was a lot of fun because you knew the people you were working with. But it seemed to be it was very exhilarating to me, not because I wanted to be on stage and the performing and all that sort of thing. That's not ever really been my instinct, as it were. But opera is such a complex environment of so many different things that are going on in the scenic atmosphere, the psychology of the characters, the historical perspective of the opera, the music, the structure of the music. It's this amazing 3- and 6-dimensional mosaic that happens in real time, and that was very clear to me very at the very beginning, which just completely fascinated me. You get always asked for challenging and favorites, and they're all challenging, and I don't mean that as a glib answer, but every opera, because every opera is a unique slice of a particular perspective, historical perspective and psychological perspective, if not musical style and so forth, they all present a different challenges. Some can be musically very challenging, some can be psychologically more challenging. Certainly something like Dr. Faust of Ferruccio Busoni was a very, very challenging part for the character and for the music. The stamina necessary in some operas is the challenge. A Mandrika of Richard Strauss, or Guillaume Tell, or some of the Verdi operas, Ballo in Maschera, or Don Carlo. There's physical elements to these things that are very, very challenging. So there is always something that requires a pretty specific amount of energy and attention.